Hi, I'm Shohrat Shankar, a leadership and organizational facilitator and coach for Search for Excellence. I've been in this field for over 20 to 23 years, and in that, a lot of times there are some questions brought forward to me, specifically about leading and driving change. So let me start with sharing one key problem statement which is often brought forward to me. Leaders of organizations come to me saying, we announce change, we communicate it right, we try to do everything possible, but people still ignore it and nothing really changes. When I ask them, what have they really done to communicate this change, or how have they gone about the communication? The answers I get, some of them very valid. We've sent an email communicating the change. We've sent presentations of the new, let's say, for example, change in structure, or we've sent presentations and details of the entire change in process. All this has been communicated, is what they say. We've done our best to explain step by step what needs to be followed, what the changes are. But the challenge, they say, is still that people still continue to follow the old methods, the old processes, or the old ways of doing things. So nothing really changes. At the same time, we hear some negativity, and as we know, people are rigid, they don't really want to change. So the leaders say that they repeatedly send emails and communication detailing the what needs to be changed. But still, it doesn't have the desired impact or the desired result which they are looking for. So let me talk about now what is it that they are doing right, but more importantly, what can they do differently to drive this change. What all leaders need to understand is that when driving change, can't just be rolled out. Change needs to be led. Change needs to be handholded. Change needs to be developed and nurtured to move forward. And today, specifically with a highly volatile environment, the need for communicating change right is all the more relevant. So, step one of what do we need to do right? Well, what needs to change, whether it's a structure, it's a process, it's a way of doing things, it's a strategy, that what I think most leaders are already doing pretty well, and that is communicated most of the time. Well, if we are not doing that well enough, that's the first step. The bigger challenge comes in is in the why. What is the why are we really doing this change? What is the purpose of this change? How does it align with the bigger picture? How well are we communicating that? What is the impact on people and processes? What are the pros? What are the cons? What is the impact? How is it going to affect people's lives? How is it going to affect processes? Is something which must be discussed and must be communicated. And then, how are we as leaders or as the leadership going to support you and the organization in this change and transition process? So, what, why, how, and of course, how am I going to support you in this process? Step two, once we've focused on what we need to communicate, as I gave the four questions, what, why, how, and the impact and the purpose, and so on. The next part comes, once this is communicated, listen to the resistance. Resistance is good, as the process of resistance is what will help people deal with their doubts, fears, and apprehensions. For me, the bigger worry is if there is no resistance, because then it means one of two things. Either people haven't understood the what, why, how, or the impact in the first place, or they don't feel they need to do anything to drive this change. Both ways, nothing is really going to change. So, listen to the resistance, because that is a key part of moving forward. Now, when I listen to the resistance, it's important to understand what is the form of resistance I'm listening to. Is it An emotional resistance. That means, am I listening carefully to understand the fears and apprehensions of the people who are going through the change? So, is it a logical resistance? Is it possible that they're not able to understand the rationale behind this change? Then, is it a practical resistance? That means they understand the rationale, but they somehow are struggling with understanding how is this really going to get implemented. What are they are resisting or unable to understand the practical challenges of making this happen? Or is it a lack of alignment to the purpose itself? That means logically they understand, practically they know it can be done, they don't have any real apprehensions, but they can't see how this change is going to fit in with the organization's bigger objectives, with the larger purpose, the vision of the organization. So remember, resistance is not resistance as is, it is either emotional, logical, practical, or just a misalignment of purpose. And as a leader, it's important for me to understand where this resistance is coming from. Of course, one part I'd like to share here, often logical or practical resistance might not really be that, but in fact, it could be emotional fears and apprehensions being put forward in a logical or practical manner. So, as a leader, how well am I listening? And more importantly, how well am I responding to all these aspects of resistance which come my way? Now, once I've understood the resistance, so step one, as we said, was what all needs to be communicated. Once you communicate, there's likely to be resistance. So step two is understanding and being open to that resistance. Step three now starts with what is the environment and what all do I do to move this resistance forward to actually drive the change. So first, address the elephant or elephants in the room. Acknowledge the resistance. Talk about it. Show empathy. All these are very critical to make people feel psychologically safe enough to bring forward their resistance, talk about it, find solutions to it so that together we can move forward. Then, through the entire process, be transparent, share what you know, share, and of course, within confidentiality norms, at different stages, share whatever you can share and whatever you are aware of. And if you don't have some answers, what am I doing as a leader to hunt for them so that I can give more clarity? Focus on impact, not strategy. What I mean is, when we're talking about change, don't keep focusing on what needs to change and how are we only going to implement it. Keep talking about what is going to be the impact of this change, and specifically in this context, focusing on the positive impact of this change. The more we keep talking about it, the more it motivates people to want to move forward. So often leaders are scared of these discussions. They avoid getting into close knit discussion groups because they're scared of the questions, the resistance which is going to come up. Now, the key part is, for the change to move forward, I need to know what the resistance is. For that, how many or how often am I setting up group discussions with different stakeholders to understand the different resistance factors, whether, as I said, emotional, logical, practical, or purpose alignment, to understand how do we need to keep adapting or keep refining our change strategy to move forward. Then, in through different forums, different methods, different media, how am I continuously communicating purpose and value of this change and how that aligns with the organizational goals and objectives? Now, in all this, I think the most important part is how I, as a leader, respond to the resistance. Do I try and understand, question, look for answers, re- proactively remove roadblocks, and be a change agent to drive this change forward and drive people's willingness to implement this change? Or do I respond to this resistance with the distance and avoiding the difficult conversations and telling people they don't have a choice in this change, so they might as well just follow what the organization wants them to do? Because this drives a must do mindset instead of a willing to do and wanting to do mindset. So, if you want change to happen, drive the will, drive the willingness, drive the commitment. Thank you.